Imagine finding a door that leads to another world, where every skill you learn or item you acquire comes back with you to reality. Sounds like the setup for an epic adventure, right? For Yuya, though, the story kicks off with him getting beaten up. It starts when Yuya steps in to defend a girl being harassed by some thugs. Unfortunately, his good intentions don't exactly win the day. They mock him for being fat and ugly before beating him senseless. The cops show up, the thugs scatter, and the girl thanks him. Yuya brushes it off and limps away. His life a sad cycle of suffering. You see, Yuya has been the universe's punching bag for as long as he can remember. Bullied at school, tormented at home, his own parents favored his attractive siblings, treating Yuya like an unwanted stray. The only bright spot was his grandfather, a kind man who taught Yuya to help others, no matter how bad things got. But Grandpa passed away, leaving Yuya a house, some savings, and an unshakable loneliness. At school, Yuya's middle school graduation is a formality drenched in mockery. His yearbook, full of cruel messages. As he tries to leave, his bullies remind him he'll always be their errand boy, beating him up for good measure. His siblings, they watch unbothered. Things aren't better outside school. At his part-time job, his boss fires him for being late again, thanks to the bullies. Dejected, Yuya heads home to his rundown house, eats a depressing meal, and glares at his reflection in the mirror. Frustration boils over. He smashes the mirror and punches the wall, only to discover a hidden room. Inside are strange artifacts, presumably souvenirs from his late grandfather's travels. Among them, a mysterious door stands out. When Yuya opens it, he's met with a notification straight out of a video game. Confused but curious, he reads on. The door connects to another world. It comes with game-like systems, item storage, user controls, and more. Feeling like a protagonist in a fantasy RPG, Yuya checks his stats and instantly regrets it. They're abysmal. Exploring further, he finds himself in a magical house. A note on a table, initially unreadable, transforms into legible text thanks to a newfound language skill. The note explains the house belonged to a great sage who, nearing death, left everything to whoever found it. The property is sealed with powerful magic, accessible only to its rightful owner. The place is stocked with treasures, including weapons that are clearly extraordinary. Testing one out, Yuya clumsily swings a sword outside and falls flat on his face. But hey, silver lining, he unlocks a basic sword skill. For the first time in his life, Yuya has a glimmer of hope. Yuya, now armed with god-tier weapons, dives into training. Swinging swords, hurling spears. It's like a fantasy boot camp. He racks up new skills but can't shake his frustration. His stats are still stuck at level 1. Just as he's storing the weapons, a terrifying monster, a level 300 bloody ogre, appears. Yuya freezes. The ogre rages against the house's magical barrier, yanking up a tree in a futile attempt to break through. Yuya, heart pounding, decides to fight back. Summoning his courage, he hurls a spear. To his shock, it pierces the monster and kills it instantly. The spear even zips back to his hand like a loyal boomerang. The monster vanishes, leaving behind loot, and Yuya suddenly hits level 100. Staring at his boosted stats, Yuya feels a mix of awe and disbelief. After cashing in the monster drops for real-world money, wait, what? He calls it a night. But as he sleeps, his body undergoes a drastic transformation. The next morning, he wakes up to find himself unrecognizable. His clothes don't fit, and with his mirror still broken, he can't even see the new him. Luckily, the sage's house has magical clothes that resize themselves and offer bonuses. Dressed in his new gear, Yuya explores the garden, only to be attacked by a level 200 slime. This time, he's calm. With a flick of his spear, he destroys it, earning more loot, coffee slime, surprisingly tasty, and a rare necklace that restores magic power. His level skyrockets to 150, and he gains a new skill, presence detection. Life in the other world becomes Yuya's escape. He trains daily, defeating elite goblins and mastering his new abilities. Gradually, his depression fades, replaced by excitement for the possibilities ahead. By the time high school starts, Yuya is a completely different person, inside and out. At school, heads turn. His bullies, unable to recognize him, assume he's a transfer student. When Yuya reveals his identity, jaws drop. His transformation is so drastic, no one believes him. Later, his siblings corner him, accusing him of faking it. As if on cue, a limo pulls up, and out steps the girl he saved from those thugs. She's been looking for him. Yuya, confused, wonders how she even knows his name. If you are enjoying the story, why not like and subscribe? Kaori introduces herself and admits she looked into Yuya to thank him properly. She offers him a spot at Osei Academy, a school for the super elite. Yuya is stunned. It's not every day someone like him gets invited to such a prestigious place. Kaori explains she's on the student council, and her father is the academy's chairman. Before Yuya can respond, his brother butts in, demanding to join instead. He brags about being better than Yuya at everything. Academics, sports, you name it. Kaori shuts him down immediately. She's already done her homework and knows all about how his siblings mistreated him. Yuya, she insists, is her hero. Kaori reassures Yuya that Osei values character over academics, so he has nothing to worry about. Her attendant suggests giving him a tour, and before Yuya knows it, she's whisked him away, leaving his siblings fuming in disbelief. At the academy, Yuya meets the chairman, Tsukasa, who thanks him for saving Kaori. Though Yuya downplays it, Kaori insists he was the only one who stepped up. Tsukasa offers Yuya a full scholarship as thanks, but Yuya hesitates. He's convinced he doesn't belong among geniuses. Tsukasa gently disagrees, saying geniuses are just people who've figured out how to work efficiently. Everyone has unique talents, he explains, and Yuya is still young enough to discover his. To ease Yuya's doubts, he suggests a trial day at the school. Yuya is introduced to a teacher, Sawada, a renowned scientist with a knack for making her classes engaging. Nervously, he joins his first class, worried he'll stick out like a sore thumb. When he introduces himself, the students are stunned, not by his background, but by his looks. Yuya sits at the back, sharing a book with the girl next to him. She seems a bit cold, leaving him paranoid she already dislikes him. Meanwhile, Kaori wonders if Yuya will fit in. To his surprise, the class feels normal, except the students are way more involved than at his old school. During the break, students flock to Yuya, bombarding him with questions. Is he an idol? Does he have a girlfriend? Overwhelmed, Yuya is saved by Ryo, who drags him to the cafeteria. Yuya's jaw drops at the menu. Everything is free. As he eats, he bonds with Ryo and another student, Shingo, over their shared love of anime. For the first time, Yuya feels like he belongs. Still, he notices people staring at him and assumes it's because of his uniform. Little does he realize, his presence is already making waves. During lunch, Shingo asks Yuya if he's joining any clubs. Yuya shakes his head. He's not in any. Ryo chimes in, saying he isn't either, though only because he's good at too many sports and can't pick one. Shingo, meanwhile, proudly declares he's in a gaming club. Yuya is surprised. Video games in school? But Shingo assures him it's fine as long as they don't play during class. Talking about games, Yuya begins to relax and enjoy their company. At the end of the day, Yuya meets Tsukasa, admitting he had a great time. With a newfound confidence, Yuya decides to join the school. As he leaves, he bumps into Kaori, who's thrilled to hear his decision. She invites him out, and they head to a trendy shopping district. Yuya wonders if this is where Kaori usually hangs out with her friends, but she confides that people often avoid her because of her family status. But you're different, she adds with a smile. Flustered, Yuya quickly suggests trying the crepe shop. Eyeing the prices, he's relieved about his steady income from the other world. As they dig into their crepes, Yuya enjoys the flavors but jokes about not overdoing it. He doesn't want to revert to his old self. Curious, he asks how Kaori recognized him despite his transformation. She smiles, saying his eyes are still the same. When Yuya mentions wanting to try another flavor, Kaori offers him a bite of hers. Embarrassed but grateful, he accepts and offers her a bite in return. She hesitates but takes it, just as a group of onlookers gush about how cute they look together. Later that night, Yuya dons his armor and returns to the other world. Venturing outside, he battles monsters, leveling up to 235. But progress slows, and he realizes he'll need to leave his house for stronger foes. Fueled by his experiences at the academy, Yuya seeks a bigger challenge. As he steps through his gate, a scream pierces the air. Gripping his spear, Yuya rushes toward the sound and stumbles upon a gruesome scene. Soldiers lying dead and a towering level 200 goblin general standing menacingly over a girl. Yuya hurls his spear, but the goblin deflects it. Seizing the moment, he slams into the goblin with a powerful kick, taking it down. Turning to the girl, Yuya barely has time to react before another goblin ambushes him, sending him flying. This one is faster and stronger, but Yuya refuses to back down. Using his spear to vault over the goblin, he unleashes a flurry of arrows with his bow before switching to his sword to finish it off in one clean strike. Checking on the girl, Yuya wonders about the humans in this world. Before he can ask, she faints. Hearing voices in the distance, Yuya uses his invisibility skill and vanishes into the shadows. Turns out the girl Yuya saved is a princess named Lexia. Back at home, Yuya can't stop thinking about her. Was she okay? Well, knights showed up to help her, so she's probably fine. Distracting himself, he notices his shirt. It's enchanted to stay clean, but it's been his go-to outfit forever. Time for a wardrobe upgrade. With some money from the other world, he heads to the mall. As he strolls through, shoppers can't help but stare, assuming he's an actor or model. Yuya, meanwhile, is overwhelmed by the sheer number of options. Elsewhere in a mall, chaos unfolds at a photo shoot. A director is fuming because their male model is a no-show. Everyone, especially Miyu, the female model, has been waiting all morning. The shoot's theme? A couple photo shoot, which means no show, no shoot. Desperate, the director decides to scout for a stand-in. Back in the mall, Yuya's browsing is interrupted by a group of girls who approach him. Assuming they're sales reps, he braces himself, but they're just eager to chat and even offer to help him shop. Yuya politely declines, leaving the girls in a flustered daze. He walks away, wondering if he handled that right. Meanwhile, the director is still on the hunt when he spots Yuya. Bingo! Yuya is their perfect replacement. Approaching him, the director explains the situation. Yuya hesitates but agrees, realizing how many people are counting on him. Thrown into the shoot, Yuya poses as Miyu's boyfriend, modeling in various outfits. The director demands a sexier vibe, but Yuya struggles to deliver. Miyu reassures him he's doing great for a first-timer, and Yuya can't help but admire her. When she moves closer for the next shot, he panics as she presses against him. The director encourages even more intimacy, and Miyu wraps her arms around Yuya, leaving him beet red as onlookers gather. Meanwhile, back in the other world, Princess Lexia can't stop thinking about her mysterious savior. Despite her knight's warnings, because who lives in a forest that dangerous? Lexia insists on returning to thank him. Back at the mall, the shoot wraps up, and Yuya feels like he's been wrung dry. Miyu, ever gracious, thanks him again, and just as Yuya takes a sip of his drink, bam, he chokes, nearly turning the moment into a comedy skit. Miyu quickly offers him her handkerchief, but Yuya freezes. He's sweaty, and using her pristine handkerchief feels wrong. His sleeve isn't an option either. The clothes aren't his. Great. As he awkwardly navigates this minor crisis, Yuya reflects on the surreal day. Modeling? Him? The guy who's never owned anything remotely trendy? He admits Miyu makes it look effortless, but she brushes off the compliment, saying she only got good after making tons of mistakes when she first started. Relatable, Yuya thinks. Curiosity strikes, and Yuya asks why she got into modeling. Her answer? Heartbreaking and inspiring. She wanted to be noticed because her parents were always too busy for her. Over time, the support from fans became her reason to continue. Bringing joy to others felt worth it. She encourages Yuya to take things at his own pace and enjoy the ride. It's one of those rare heartfelt moments that could have been perfect, but of course the director, in full paparazzi mode, captures their candid chat with a flurry of clicks. And then drama. Sho, a smug pretty boy, saunters over, turning the crowd into a frenzy. He zeroes in on Miyu, insisting they continue their shoot, but things go south fast. Yuya doesn't need superhuman instincts to see she's uncomfortable. Without hesitation, he steps in, and Sho's gaze shifts to him, sizing him up like he's an inconvenience. Sho throws a punch, but Yuya sidesteps and effortlessly tosses him aside. The crowd gasps. Yuya, however, is internally panicking. Did he just manhandle someone in public? A ridiculously handsome guy, no less? But instead of outrage, the crowd cheers. Meanwhile, the director calmly informs Sho that every humiliating second was captured in glorious 4K. Sho bolts, and Miyu breathes a sigh of relief, thanking it. Turns out Sho had been stalking her, and she didn't know how to handle it. The director chimes in, revealing Sho's behavior had been an open secret. This incident, likely career-ending. Then, shifting gears, the director asks Yuya if he's interested in more modeling work. Yuya is flattered but declines, saying he doesn't feel cut out for it. Despite the polite refusal, the director respects his choice, even gifting him all the clothes from the shoot as thanks. After all, they can't pay an amateur, but Yuya earned it, especially after saving the day. Miyu hopes they'll work together again someday, and with that, they part ways. In the car ride home, the director sighs, lamenting the loss of a potential star. Flipping through the photos, Miyu can't help but notice how different Yuya looks, confident, almost radiant. She turns red, and the director, ever the tease, calls her out. Miyu denies it, but her flustered face says otherwise. Meanwhile, Yuya is back in his own world, reorganizing his life. Somewhere online, his photos are already making the rounds, sparking a ripple of curiosity about the mysterious amateur model. Agencies are buzzing, desperate to sign Yuya. One determined woman orders her associate to track him down immediately. No way she's letting someone who held his own against Miyu slip away. Meanwhile, in the other world, Lexia's knights are battling goblins and losing ground fast. As a goblin sneaks up on Lexia, Yuya appears, cutting it down effortlessly. The knights are stunned, and Lexia is overjoyed to see him. With the goblins dispatched, Yuya tends to an injured knight. Lexia approaches him, and without warning, asks him to marry her. The knights are floored. Her captain, Owen, protests. Princess, we know nothing about this man. But Lexia insists it's love at first sight. Yuya, caught off guard, shifts the focus back to the forest's dangers and invites them to his house for safety. The knights are stunned to learn he actually lives in the dark forest. At his home, Owen formally introduces himself as the captain of the Arzelia Knights and Lexia as the first princess of Arzelia. Yuya, now realizing her royal status, worries about protocol, but Owen reassures him. This is an unofficial visit and he's their savior. Lexia thanks him again, admitting she's been thinking of him since he first saved her. "Will you marry me?" she asks again. Yuya, overwhelmed, stammers that the proposal is too sudden. Lexia takes this as confirmation that love shouldn't come easy. It needs challenges, like in a romance novel she's read. "Fine," she says. "Let's start as friends." Yuya, thinking of his past, nervously agrees. Owen reveals another reason for their visit. The king wants Yuya to visit the royal palace to thank him in person. Yuya hesitates, but Owen insists. It's a royal command. Yuya agrees, requesting a delay to focus on his new school. Owen assures him the king will wait. As they leave, Lexia warns Yuya to prepare himself. "Next time, I'll win your heart," she vows. Elsewhere in the royal capital, a man reports on the failed assassination attempt against Lexia. A masked figure, clearly in charge, listens grimly. The assassins had wandered into the dark forest and been wiped out by monsters. But the masked man is more concerned about how Lexia survived unscathed. "Don't fail me again," he warns coldly. He removes his mask, unveiling a face scarred by misfortune, and reveals his identity as a disgraced royal. With a venomous vow of revenge against Lexia, he disappears into the shadows. Meanwhile, at Yuya's house, our boy marks his calendar, a countdown to meeting the king. Freshly suited up in his snazzy new uniform, he heads out for his first day at the academy. As Yuya strolls through the campus, heads turn, jaws drop, and whispers swirl. Is he a model? When he arrives, the director offers a brisk welcome, apologizing for his packed schedule, but tossing Yuya some sage advice. Enjoy yourself. Yuya's grand classroom entrance is met with friendly waves from Rio and Shingo, who are stoked to see him. The scene cuts to a lively soccer match, where a star player, Roy, dazzles the crowd with a goal that has the girls cheering like it's a rock concert. Watching from the sidelines, Yuya is impressed, until a girl named Keed sidles up and wonders why he's not in the game. Yuya shrugs, explaining he doesn't have gym clothes yet. Roy's on fire, weaving through defenders like they're traffic cones. Just when everyone expects him to go for glory, he tricks them with a slick pass to his teammate, Akira. Akira winds up for a killer shot but fumbles, sending the ball flying straight toward Keed. Before disaster strikes, Yuya leaps into action, not only stopping the ball, but scoring a goal with style. Cue collective gasps. "Who is this guy?" whispers a crowd, dazzled by his speed. Yuya checks on Keed, but she's too busy swooning over his effortless charm. Enter Akira, rushing over in full drama mode, begging forgiveness and offering eternal servitude. Keed brushes him off with a laugh, while Rio vouches for Akira, calling him quirky but harmless. Akira, ever grateful, thanks Yuya for saving the day. Later, in a locker room, Keed and the girls are buzzing about you. "He's like a prince," one exclaims. Kaori and Keed exchange knowing looks, but insist that Yuya's relationship status is unconfirmed. Down on the field, Yuya waves to Kaori during class, just as trouble rolls in literally. A gang of delinquents on motorbikes bursts onto the scene, bats swinging wildly. Students freeze, whispering in fear. "It's the Red Ogres," someone murmurs, "the most dangerous gang in town." Yuya's blood runs cold when he spots familiar faces among them, his siblings, Yuta and Sarah. The gang circles the girls, with Yuta singling out Kaori as the director's daughter. Kaori recognizes Yuya's siblings and demands to know their business. Smirking, they declare their intent to teach her a lesson for looking down on them and for Yuya's acceptance into the academy. Kaori stands firm, warning them that the cops are already on their way. But Sarah scoffs, confident they've got time. The gang closes in, ready to snatch Kaori as payback. Yuya clenches his fists, torn between fear and resolve. He's faced monsters in another world, but standing against his childhood tormentors? That hits differently. As his legs tremble, Yuya knows he has to make a choice, fight or freeze. Yuya's panic has his friends worried, but he pulls himself together. Without warning, he opens the window and jumps out. The 4th floor. Everyone gasps, expecting the worst, but Yuya lands unharmed, like a superhero with plot armor. He charges straight into the fray, coming face to face with his old tormentor, Araki, who sneers, "Time to teach you a lesson." Araki's goons rush Yuya, but it's a one-sided match. Yuya ducks, weaves, and disarms them with ridiculous ease. Even Araki's attempt is ignored as Yuya focuses on rescuing Kaori. Before he can reach her, a mountain of a man, Amori, blocks his way. Amori charges like a freight train, but Yuya doesn't flinch. One shove, and Amori is tossed aside like a sack of potatoes. Yuya finally gets to Kaori and checks on her, only for the gang leader to rev up his bike and charge at them. Yuya dodges, and the boss loses control, crashing in a spectacular heap. With the boss knocked out, the police swoop in, arresting the delinquents. The students are ushered back to class, but Yuya stays behind to ensure Kaori is okay. She stumbles, weak from the ordeal, and he catches her. For a moment, it feels like time stops between them. Just as Yuya relaxes, the gang leader wakes up, choking him from behind and spewing blame. Sarah pleads for Yuya's life but gets kicked aside. Yuya fights back, breaking free and forcing the gang to back off. The boss lunges again, but Yuya doesn't even move. His sheer presence is enough to stop him. The students watch in awe, wondering what just happened. After everything settles, Yuya reflects. Despite their cruelty, his siblings are still family, and he couldn't abandon them. His words hit hard, leaving his brother in tears. They beg for forgiveness, apologizing for all their wrongs. Yuya accepts, and the tension eases as his friends surround him, impressed, and a little baffled by his window jump. Later, Yuya decides to explore the other world again, recalling Olin's ominous warning about the dark forest, monsters so strong they could wipe out a city. Intrigued, he ventures deeper, curious about the sage who once owned his house. In the heart of the forest, Yuya hears a cry and spots a puppy under attack by a hulking orc. The dog, glowing with dark energy, is helpless. Yuya freezes as he scans the orc, a level 600 orc king with over 20,000 attack. Yeah, nope, he thinks, ready to walk away. But when the orc starts stomping the puppy, Yuya's conscience kicks in. What would Grandpa do? He wonders before deciding to distract the orc. He charges in, expecting a tough fight. Instead, a single strike fells the beast. Embarrassment creeps in. How did he psych himself up for that? He recalls the ogre he defeated at level 1 and grows suspicious of the sage's gear. Turning to the dog, he approaches cautiously. It growls, still wary despite its rescue. Yuya just sighs, another day, another adventure. Yuya offers the injured puppy a potion, but promptly passes out. Panicking, he tends to its wounds, and soon, the little guy warms up to him. After a bit of awkward one-sided chatter, Yuya realizes the pup is alone in the world. He offers to take it in, and to his surprise, it happily agrees. Suddenly, Yuya gains the taming skill. Just like that, he has a new companion. Checking its stats, he discovers the puppy is actually a level 500 black Fenrir. Shocked but impressed, he names it Knight, inspired by its sleek black fur. Knight, clearly loving the name, pounces on him with joy. Back at the house, Yuya inspects the loot from the Orc King. Among the treasures are an S-rank magic stone, some monstrous gear that's useless to humans, but could be reforged, and a rare brush that stimulates hair growth. Naturally, Yuya uses the brush on Knight, who enjoys the pampering. Curious, Yuya checks his own stats. Level 235. He's baffled. Defeating a level 600 monster didn't level him up. Shrugging it off, he figures the system must have quirks he'll figure out later. In the real world, Yuya leaves Knight at home and heads to school. During lunch, he casually asks his friends about local pet shops, revealing he just adopted a dog. Keith immediately lights up, begging to see pictures. Yuya stammers, admitting he doesn't have any, because he doesn't even own a smartphone. His friends find this bizarre, but Yuya just shrugs. They suggest a nearby pet shop but can't tag along. Keith eagerly offers to help, and Yuya, oblivious to her excitement, thanks her. Keith internally wonders if this could count as a date but brushes it off. After school, Yuya returns home with supplies Keith helped him pick. He gifts Knight a shiny new collar and decides they should test it out with a walk. At the park, heads turn. Yuya looks effortlessly cool, and Knight's sheer adorableness wins over everyone. They bump into Kaori, who immediately kneels to pet Knight, gushing over his cuteness. Onlookers murmur about how Yuya and Kaori look like a perfect couple. Kaori asks about Knight's breed, and Yuya awkwardly dodges the truth. Fenrir might raise eyebrows. Kaori, oblivious, marvels at how smart and happy Knight seems. Just then, a familiar voice calls out, "It's Miyu, the model Yuya worked with." She greets him warmly, introducing herself to Kaori. The crowd buzzes as they recognize Miyu, and the trio quickly becomes the center of attention. Miyu, sensing the growing commotion, gracefully excuses herself but promises to meet again. After she leaves, Kaori raises the million-dollar question, "Is she your girlfriend?" Yuya, flustered, denies it. He insists they barely know each other and adds, self-deprecatingly, that someone like her would never date him. Kaori frowns, clearly disagreeing. Suddenly, a woman's scream pierces the air. A man bolts past, clutching her purse. Kaori freezes, unsure what to do, but Yuya calmly instructs Knight, "Go." Knight takes off like a missile. Meanwhile, Yuya checks on the woman, reassuring her. Moments later, Knight returns, the thief in tow, dragging him by the collar. Yuya asks Kaori to call the police, but the thief breaks free, lunging at her in desperation. Yuya steps in, disarming and pinning the man effortlessly. Kaori, grateful yet again, thanks him for saving her, and they hand the thief over to the police. The next day, he and Knight delve deeper into the dark forest. Monsters abound, but with their teamwork, nothing stand a chance. They encounter another Orc King, but this time, Knight takes the spotlight, leaping for its neck and taking it down solo. Yuya's impressed, but the forest isn't done with surprises yet. Soon they stumble upon a crystal deer, a stunning level 630 beast radiating magic power. Yuya, invisible, watches in awe, plotting his approach. But before he can act, the deer somehow senses him and charges. Well, so much for sneaky plans, Yuya mutters as he and Knight split up. Knight darts in to attack, but the deer counters with explosive magic, sending shockwaves through the clearing. It follows up with a water blast aimed at Yuya, but he dodges, barely staying ahead. Realizing they need a strategy, Yuya shouts for Knight to create an opening. Knight zips around a deer, dodging magic left and right. The forest erupts in sparks and debris, but Knight lands a critical hit. Yuya seizes the moment, finishing the fight with precision. As the dust settles, he checks the loot and finds a portable bath set. Yuya examines the magical box, marveling at its features, self-cleaning, privacy shields, and adjustable settings. This is absurdly fancy, he chuckles, deciding to save it for later. Returning home, he sets it up and enjoys a luxurious bath, complete with Knight lounging nearby. The next day brings another challenge, a needle roller famed for its speed. The monster barrels toward Yuya, who struggles at first, barely dodging its relentless charges. But soon, he predicts its moves, forcing it to crash into a wall. With the monster stuck, Yuya finishes it off. Finally, he levels up to 240, and Knight hits 510. But there's more. A crack forms where the needle roller struck, revealing a hidden cave. Intrigued, they step inside. The air is eerily still as Yuya scans for enemies but finds none. Deeper in, the cave glows, revealing a larger chamber and a chilling sight. A body lies on the ground. Yuya freezes, but Knight nudges him toward a book nearby. Picking it up, Yuya realizes it's the Book of the Sage. As he flips through, he learns the sage was a legend, a master of all skills who became godlike in power. Even the gods invited him to join their ranks, but he declined. Then, the book begins to speak. It warns Yuya that as he grows stronger, people may fear him. Yuya feels a pang of doubt. How can he avoid that? The sage's voice echoes in response. Find those you trust. The sage offers Yuya a rare chance to ask anything. Without hesitation, Yuya requests to learn magic. The book fills with the sage's vast knowledge, but there's a catch. Yuya, being from another world, lacks the magical circuits needed to wield magic. The sage, however, isn't done helping. With a wave of ethereal generosity, he transfers his own magical circuits to Yuya. Find happiness, the sage advises. Live a good life. And just like that, Yuya's journey takes a profound turn. If you enjoyed the video, give that like button some love and hit subscribe, because who wouldn't want to see what happens next in this epic saga?